Hello guys and welcome to a brand new video. Today I will be talking about the latest show that we have all seen. I'm pretty sure everyone have seen this and it has been one of the most talked about shows, well deserved. It is Sousou no Frieren. I'm going to give a mini review and share my thoughts about this anime as a whole. Now, I made a reaction. Obviously, all the 28 episodes were absolutely amazing, and I thought I usually kind of keep the final episode for giving a little review, but to talk about everything that I want to share, it would have made the final episode reaction a bit too long. So I decided to make a separate video for this. And I feel like I'll be doing this from here onwards. All the animes that particularly I really like or really enjoy, I'm going to make a separate video for them at the end, kind of talking about it. So there we go, a mini review for Sousou no Frieren. I'm not someone who can probably articulate all the words properly and share it like a lot of other reviewers might be able to, but I will try my best, and in my own way I'll give I'll try to talk about this show as a whole. So no Frieren. It is a show that I knew about from quite a while. I've heard about it from about the manga, but I decided not to watch it, not to read it, because I knew it was eventually going to get an anime. And there we go. We got an anime very recently, and it was one of the most well done adaptations. And Madhouse completely did it so perfectly. Everyone that I've heard talking about Frieren, everyone is very impressed, and so am I. It is a really good, an adaptation and a very good anime as a whole. But obviously, Madhouse was able to bring it out into the world in an anime format, and they banged it. But what about the anime in itself? What about the story? How does it fare in that? And yeah, the same answer. It is absolutely amazing. So I started Frieren. I knew people have a very good impression about the manga, and I was like, let's give this a go. Let's give the anime a go. And I started a reaction, and I knew this would probably be up my alley because I really like these type of shows which have a very chill vibe to it, and it just goes into the deeper stuff, and talks about a lot of interesting stuff and a lot more stuff that you have to think about, and instead of just doing it the normal generic way. And yeah, I was not disappointed. After watching 28 episodes, it has been an amazing journey. So as a whole, Frieren is a show about an elf who, being an elf, she lives a long time, and she has a very different perspective on time compared to her allies, who most of them are humans or people or species who have a lower a very much lower amount of lifespan than an elf. So it makes it a very interesting, because I feel like in the very first few episodes, we saw Frieren in a state where she understood nothing about empathy, or in that sense, from a human's perspective, since she had no clue about what a human being's time span is. For her, meetings were just like a moment of time. For an elf who lives thousands and thousands of years, 100 years or 80 years, which equals to a normal lifespan of a human being, is just a moment of time, and which made goodbyes very frequent for her. So I remember the very first few episodes, she was so, what's that word, I would say, I cannot really find a word for it, but she was so desensitized. Is that the word, to proper word to use it here? I don't know, but she was so desensitized to the whole concept of a human dying and how you should take it. For her, I remember the one thing that she said in I think it was Himmel's when Himmel died. I think she had said something like, "Oh, it's just a moment of time for me." But then she broke down when she remembered the journey that they went through, and that is from the time from when Frieren started to change. She started realizing what it means to have people, human beings, as friends, and how their time and how her time are so different, and how for her, even though for the humans it's a matter of a lifetime that they were friends, for her it's just a moment of time, which makes it even sadder, the goodbyes that she has to go through, and she will probably go through from here onwards as well. And and yeah, and that is where from the story begins. And I remember Frieren, how Frieren was in the very first few episodes, and now fast forward to 28 episodes later, I'm just seeing the change in her, like in her way of going through all of these things, like in her way of perceiving things now compared to the first few episodes. It's such a big difference. And yeah, and I remember Frieden being so much like unemotional. She didn't really show any emotions in her face in the very first few episodes, but now 28 episodes later, yeah, it's a drastic change, and it's character development done so brilliantly. um but yeah, that is basically like what Freeren's whole thing is. And like I said, one of the best things this show does is show the perspective of a long living creature compared to like normal human beings. And that's just one fact of the show which makes it so good. There's so many other things, so many other factors that makes this so much better than a lot of things. And I feel like recently there has been, I would say, a very um reduction in the amount of good fantasy animes we used to get. I'm not talking about isekais though. Isekai, and I'm not including isekais in, like, yeah, in isekais, most of the isekais have fantasy in it, but I'm talking about pure fantasy, like where like elves, dwarves, dragons, that kind of thing. No, no 15-year-old um no 15-year-old shut in character from the real world get transported into this world and he gets an OP power. None of that crap, you know and yeah, like I cannot even remember a proper fantasy anime that we got recently. Every single fantasy anime is basically isekai nowadays. I'm just trying to remember if I remember anything. I don't think so. Nah. There is probably a few of them that I cannot really remember, but that's the thing. If you tell me, I can name like at least 5 isekai animes now. If you tell me to name like one fantasy anime in recent few days, I don't think I'll probably have to think a lot. So in that day and age, getting a proper fantasy anime like this is such a breath of fresh air, you know. And yeah, so what are the other things that makes Freelance shine, in my opinion? Another thing is I feel like the chill vibe, I would say. Like, it has a lot of things that, like a lot of action packed scenes as well. However, they know how to strike the correct balance between action and just slice of life. And I feel like they do it so well. And the slice of lifey parts are also done so brilliantly that, like I said, this show has a lot of things that you just think about when you hear the characters talk about particular stuff. Freeren's whole understanding of human emotions, and her being able to little by little understand the difference between how she looks at the world, being a long-lived creature, and how the others look at the world, stuff like that. How she learns a lot of new things from, the humans, particularly Himmel, who was one of the biggest influences in her life. Stuff like that. To other stuff, like a lot of the other characters have a lot of other things that they go through, and you kind of think about it. And whenever like particular stuffs related to Frieren's past used to pop up and Frieren used to reminisce, every single one of them just makes you think, like, and look at the whole world in a very very different perspective. It's just so amazing. And I really like these type of shows which makes you think about a lot of things that you take for granted. And yeah, and so like, and I feel like Himmel was that one character who I feel like who's like a who's a character who has like maxed out his character development, and he's just there as someone, like, whenever whatever comes out of his mouth, it's just words to live by. Like, that is literally Himmel. I remember like every single thing that Himmel talks about, it just makes so much sense, and it just like really fascinated me. And it makes sense why they kind of stuck with Frieren, because Frieren being a shut-in elf who literally shut herself up for so many thousands of years, trying to control her mana and getting ready to deceive demons. She, after meeting someone like Himmel, it makes sense why he made such a positive impact and such an influence on Frieren's heart, that she still remembers him, and she will probably remember him for the rest of her years, thinking about him, reminiscing about him. It makes sense because I myself was impressed hearing Himmel speak. Like I said, he's a maxed out like a maxed out character development type of character. His character development has been maxed out. Like it's absolutely crazy. And like there's so many parts of this show that really made me like just stop and think about a few things. And yeah, I like when a show is able to do that. So that is another, I feel like, a very strong aspect of this show. What else? What else do we have in this show? Oh, the power balance. Now, being a fantasy show, obviously, we got to see a lot of crazy battles, and we will probably see a lot of crazy battles from here onwards as well. The power, I guess you could say, the power like scaling in this show is very interesting. At the beginning, like I feel like everyone was under the impression that Frieren was this beast. She was like one of the strongest people, not people, elves in this world and stuff like that. People thought, and I can't blame them because that's how the anime kind of portrayed her. You remember the whole battle with what's her name? I even forgot her name. That one demon who had the scale in her hand. What was her name? I've forgotten her name. Anyways, that one battle with her, the way the anime showed the whole like Frieren's mana scale and all that stuff they showed, I can't blame people for thinking Frieren is the strongest after seeing something like that, and yeah, and she's always kind of secretive, so it makes sense why people thought that she was like one of the strongest. But it's very interesting to see as the anime goes on and on, especially for the last couple of episodes, you really understand like, no, that's not the case. Like in this show, the whole power scaling is kind of interesting. It's basically like one person is strong against the other while the other person might be strong against the other. Like, for example, Yubel was able to defeat Zenze, who is so strong against some other characters who could probably defeat Yubel. So it's like a rock paper scissors scenario, So it kind of makes sense because, yeah, I feel like it's very interesting, especially this is since this is something which is related to magic. I think it kind of makes sense. Some people will have like a weakness which someone might be able to exploit, who might be exploited by someone else who couldn't have exploited that other character. It makes sense, you know. And also, the fact, like one thing that really fascinated me about the whole fantasy and the magic thing in this show is that they talk about how magic is something that is bound by your imagination. The more you'll be able to imagine something freely, the more you'll be able to properly manipulate magic. And that's such an interesting thing. I only see this thing about magic. I only remember only one anime using this. I don't remember which anime it was, but there was another anime. I think it was Shaman King, wasn't it? Or was it something else? Where this same thing was applied, where the more your imagination is powerful, the more you'll be able to think, the more your like willpower is stronger, the more you'll be able to imagine something freely, the more strong you can be. So this is a very interesting aspect of magic that Frieren gives us. And if you think about it, it can be like, like a very unique thing. It is a very unique thing that I don't really see in much shows. So this, because of this particular thing, Frieren cannot be called one of the strongest. She is strong in a particular section, that is deceiving demons and defeating them. That doesn't mean she will be strong against every single other aspect, so that's what makes this so good, because there's no overpowered MC or overpowered character who literally wipes the floor with every single other character. This show is clever. It's clever with his power balance and the way it kind of, like makes the character, like one character is strong against another one, while that character, same character, is weak against someone else, depending on the way they are and how free they can imagine stuff. Something like that. And yeah, I love that. It makes, like, this type of a thing makes it's so much more interesting, instead of the same formula of, oh, strong character defeating everyone, like those power fantasy shows. Yeah, power fantasies are good. I like power fantasies. I like a few of the power fantasies myself as well. It makes you hyped up about, like a it gives you like a different type of an emotion, and sometimes it is good, but not all the times. And I like what this show does with its characters, and how it balances the power in that sense. So we've barely watched the show. Like, it has been 28 episodes. I'm sure we'll get a lot more. I'm sure season 2 will come very soon. So I'm really looking forward to this thing, because yeah, like, it kind of makes sense, because I myself was under this impression that, oh, Frieren was one of the strong. Yeah, she's definitely one of the strongest, but it doesn't mean that she is omnipotent. Like, there's so many other characters can just, yeah, defeat Frieren, and might be able to defeat Frieren if the if the situation favors them, kind of like that. So that makes it more interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this aspect of the show as well in the future. What else? This show, like, it has a lot of things that I can talk about, but these three I feel like are the very most important things. Like, how Frieren's own character growth, how she, like, perceives time compared to other characters. That's the first thing. The second thing being, this thing, like, the whole, like, power, thing, where you can getting a bit distracted. There are people in my house today. What was I saying? Yeah, so the way the power balance and the power scaling is done properly, and like, how and number three is how a few of the, like, scenes really makes you think, and just, like, think about very normal things, and kind of show you a different perspective to it, or make you kind of understand something so much better that you've always thought about. So yeah, like, these three, I feel like these three are the most important things about this show, that, like, makes it so good. And what else? Yeah, it's just a very chill show, which does everything in a very balanced manner, which makes it pretty damn good. You know how they say, like, balanced food? I feel like Frieren is basically balanced food. We like having junk food now and then, those trashy isekais that I'm pretty sure everyone watches. I also watch, and I enjoy them. There's no, there's no embarrassment in admitting to it. I love trashy isekai shows, like, where characters just one shot others and gets, like, every single, and gets, like a harem or something. I love them. But those those are junk food, in my opinion. It's good. It's like, nice to eat, and even if you eat them, even if you consume them, yeah, it's okay. But sometimes, it is just nice to get a proper balanced diet, and I feel like Frieren is that one balanced diet that all of us needed while being surrounded by so many junk food. And yeah, I feel like that's what, Frieren is. And I'm looking forward to more Frieren. I'm sure we'll get it, because that's what they teased us in the end. And like, one thing that I really hope is Madhouse continues this, but because I'm pretty sure they will. Because, like I said, I think I said this in the final episode reaction. Madhouse doesn't really do sequels that much, except a few exceptions. One of the exceptions is Overlord, and a few others. So I hope that Frieren becomes that one exception, another exception to it, because the way Madhouse adapted this was absolutely phenomenal, and they did a very good adaptation. At least that's what I've heard from the manga readers. Not Since I'm not a manga reader, I cannot say how they properly did the pacing. The pacing seemed fine to me as an anime only, but as I've heard from the manga readers, like, everyone is very happy with this adaptation. So I hope that Madhouse continues this, and gives us an even better season 2, which is pretty damn tough, because season 1 has been so good. But hopefully, they're able to, like, continue this. Yeah, so there you go. That is it. That is just me talking about Frieren, and it has been a great start, and I hope this continues in the future as well. So yeah, that is it. Now let me know your opinion about Frieren. If you watched it, anything you want to share, be sure to do that in the comment section. And yeah, so that is it. That's my mini review. I hope I was able to like express everything. Like I said, I'm not really well versed in proper reviewing stuff. Like, I don't even have a script. I'm just talking from what is coming to my head. So I might not have been able to like talk about everything, or maybe I'm missing something, but I tried, to properly like express how much I like this show. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. This was my mini review on Sousou no Frieren. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to press the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel or you haven't subscribed, comment down below anything you want to say, anything you want to let me know. I'll check them out. And there you go. So that is it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye and have a nice day.